Hello and happy and shit. I already messed it up. Hello and welcome to Happy You Asked, the podcast where we explore a little thing called happiness, one clearly awkward conversation at a time. And I am Erin Claire, your currently foggy-brained host because it's a Monday morning. I had horrible flights this weekend. Whatever it is, what it is. But I am speaking with today Dr. Emily Isaacson, one of my favorite people on earth. Emily is a professor, full professor, I'll have you know, of English at Heidelberg University in Tiffin, Ohio, where she also currently directs the honors program and does a bunch of other stuff, lots of stuff. Previously, she taught as a faculty member at a small college in North Carolina and at a large university in Florida, all over the place. She earned her BA at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois, and her MA and PhD at the University of Missouri, Columbia, focusing her research on the family and early modern drama. So much of the Shakespeare. When her undergraduate advisor asked her why she was an English major and not a philosophy major, she explained that studying literature seems learning about everything and getting to read beautiful things. I love that. It's so true. She's stuck with that belief ever since because it's true. So she'll happily talk about just about anything with anyone, especially her students. And she's an amazing, amazing teacher. Most importantly, she wants to know what you're interested in and learn more about that. She spends much of the rest of her time with her 5-year-old son, who's adorable. Current pursuits including building Lego sets, playing with cars, discussing the many iterations of Godzilla. When she's not being bossed by a 5-year-old, the bossiest people on earth. She writes poetry, reads as much as possible, bakes, cooks, takes photos, takes her dog on long walks. So, welcome to Happy You Asked, Emily. Oh, it's such an honor to chat with you. Hello,
It is a
hello.
delight. It is a delight because it's been too long.
Oh, yes. Yes. So Emily and I can chat about absolutely anything under the sun. Give us a topic together. We will chat about it. Now, Emily will speak to anybody about anything. I will not, because that's who I am. But we'll start off with our lead question. Emily, what is your definition of happiness? What is it to you?
So it's a really hard thing to actually define. And I know that's why you're asking people this. And I do think we often think about happiness as that thing we're all supposed to pursue, right? I mean, it's in the Declaration of Independence, right? And the idea that we should feel good about things and that life should make us feel good about ourselves, right? And I think that that's part of it. And I think that it is distinct from contentment with things. And I think it's distinct from joy. And I think those things can contribute to an overall sense of well-being and happiness. But I do think they're distinct. And I do think we get a little caught up in we have to be happy all the time, right? Because we don't have to be. We can't be, right? The world is not a happy place right now or ever, right? It's never actually a happy place. And we can get distracted. So I think it's a pretty nebulous concept that it takes a whole lifetime to look for and try to find and try to continue to develop. So I think ultimately it's an action, right? It is action. It is moving towards things and hoping to get there, right? And hoping to have moments of joy, moments where you feel content with things, moments where you are excited about things, right? So
I like that idea that happiness is an action. People expect like they're going to run into it. Like, oh, there it is. I've been looking for you everywhere, happiness. And oh, you just showed up and I did nothing, right, to get you.
right.
And that's not how
No,
it works at all.
no, no. No,
Can
and
you
I
talk
think it
about,
also, sorry, I think it also means that you can find happiness in the worst situations too, right? That's,
oh, how Buddhist of you.
I know, I was gonna say, this is not my idea, right? But I think that this is something that shows up in my own life and shows up in my own experiences, right? Like that if it is an action and it is also available all the time, and it should be available, right, to everyone. I do think that's really important. So,
Well, can you talk about like moments when you felt happy you found it?
sure. So lots of times, right? That there've been lots of moments of fun, lots of moments of happiness, right? I do probably equate a lot of my moments of happiness as times of fun and times when there's a lot of laughter. Laughter is really important to me. You and I have shared plenty of hilarious moments,
Mm,
plenty. I've
Full
been thinking,
disclosure, we went to grad school together,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. But I also, and those funny moments come back all the time, right? Whether they're conversations you and I had or things that our friends from grad school did. Like, okay, this is one of those moments that gives me joy, even thinking about it. I don't know, 15, 16 years later, we just had ribs from a local rib place. And every time I have ribs, I don't think you were there for this. We were at, it was Michael Payeski. We were
Mhm.
at somebody's house and he had too many ribs and he just says, oh, uh-oh, it's time for the meat sweats. And like, I don't know why that's so funny. It was so funny and just his delivery. And every single time I have ribs, I think of that moment. Um,
I can't hear Afternoon Delight without hearing him sing it in my head.
there you go. Yeah, yes. And so like those moments of fun, right? You and David singing I Got You, Babe, right?
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Yes.
but also,
100%.
like with my kid, right? There's tons of fun. Yes, 5-year-olds are frustrating. And I'm thinking a lot about feelings right now because he's 5 and so he's having big feelings and we're working on figuring out how to channel those big feelings. But we
I
have
hate
so
the big
much,
feeling stage. I'm like, because I don't like to see, I don't have the energy for a lot of people's big feelings at this stage of my life. I'm like, tone down your big feelings and make them medium
right,
size for me.
right. And I think it's a challenge. But my son is also really funny and he's figured out how much fun it is to make people laugh. Like it's not just the
Mhm.
normal kid jokes. Like he is genuinely doing things to try to make people laugh or just doing things because they're funny. Like he went to school in mismatched shoes. I'm like, why are you doing that? And he said, well, it's funny. Like, "Sure."
Oh,
And then he wore them all day. I took the other shoes in case he wanted to put matched. Nope. Like it was one Croc and one sneaker. So like whatever. But he gets that and he cracks me up, right? He purposely cracks me up so often. And I love that, right? And those are like a couple weeks ago, we were looking at last year's Amazon Christmas catalog because of course we still have that. And we got to a page with a Furby, and he's like, I said, I hate Furbies, they're horrible. And he kept going back to that page. He's like, wait, mommy, we gotta look at it. And he does things like that. And I love that idea of sort of that irreverence, that um making people laugh, making people giggle. Like it's his whole thing, which is so much fun. That I have this tiny human I made and who's a lot like me in some ways, who's also really good at making me laugh. But I mean, I had
Mm.
that, when I was married and we laughed all the time.
Oh, yeah.
My marriage was hilarious and wonderful in those ways. And I think that's a big part of it. Honestly, my grandma said to me, she said, find somebody who makes you laugh, right? And she said that when she met my grandpa, she was dating somebody else when she met my grandpa.
Get it?
But then I know, and then that guy died. Um, and so they had this like dinner, like memorial dinner, and at the college they were at, and my grandma had to sit next to a chair draped in black. So like the whole thing's very creepy. But my grandpa was seated across from her. And
Oh
he
my God, that's where
said
she met Grandpa?
that's where she like first talked to
Oh
my
my
grandpa. I know. The whole thing is weird, but he made her laugh. And she said to me,
God.
at this, they've been married like 50 some years, and she's like, and he's made me laugh every day ever since. Right. And so like that was really important, right? That idea of like just laughter and sharing. And maybe that's part of happiness for me is also a lot of it's sharing with other people. Right. Even though,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll talk to anybody about anything, but I also want to be left alone a lot of the time.
for real, for
Yeah.
real.
But there is
I
something
love that idea because it's a theme that I'm seeing is
about,
people's definitions of happiness and like the moments they felt most happy, it's almost always with somebody else. It's
yeah,
never like, and I was alone and I was freaking ecstatic about this.
right.
It's always with somebody else, and like this, like making people laugh and experiencing
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
is really those moments when people feel happiness, which is
Right.
cool. That also fits with research.
Yeah. And I think like the idea of being alone, because I love being alone. I really, really do. I like spending a lot of time alone. I don't get nearly enough of it because, again, 5-year-old, who is in the stage of mommy, look at this every 5 minutes,
Mm.
or play with me. And I feel contentment when I'm alone, right? Like it feels you can be content, you can be quiet. I do actually like quiet, even though I live in the noisiest house on the planet right now with a dog, an evil kitten, and a 5-year-old. And just there's always noise. So I like there's contentment, and I think that contributes to overall feelings of satisfaction with life. But there is something about the community, right, for
Oh yeah.
happiness. right?
So that feeling of, the ups and downs of
Mhm,
life, right?
mhm.
That, we can't always be laughing and giggling unless we're on drugs. And then we got other issues, right? So the
Right,
idea we shouldn't always be at this up, right? But we also shouldn't be at this down.
right.
And we need to find it in the middle, right? The sort of contentment line. Can you talk about like what do you think about these other feelings? What place do they have?
Well,
Suffering, hardship, in this whole experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I think hardship's part of life, right? We know that from literature, right? That there's hardship is there. We read literature to sometimes experience the hardship of others that we will never experience, right? Like I am very fortunate. I'm an upper middle class, cis white woman born in the United States when I was born, Gen X, right? All those things. I am really fortunate. And I've had plenty of tragedy in my life, but it is nowhere near what a lot of other people have had, right? Um, so we read those things and we learn those things and we learn, I think this is what literature teaches us is we learn to sit with them, right? We have
Mm.
to sit with those feelings. We do have to feel those feelings. Because you're right, like they weren't just on drugs all the time. Life is really complicated, but it's beautiful because it's complicated, right? I wouldn't want it any other way. Now, my own tragedies in my life, like I lost my dad, my husband, and my stepdad within about 2.5 years of each other, right? Like
Mm.
that was a really hard patch. There was still times when I got to be happy, when I got to enjoy things, but I went through very serious grief for a really long time. Um, and I struggle at this point, even I struggle with depression, right? Like I am on medication for depression. Like that's, and so I always
You're
say,
the only one. It's just you. No,
I know. No, but I'm like, which is where I'm like, therapy, medication, if you need it, do it. It's great.
do it, please.
Absolutely. Like, do it because you need to get to that baseline of being able to function, to be able to feel, but to actually really be able to feel the genuine grief, not just like your brain tricking you into thinking that
Not
everything's
just like
fine.
the complete total hole you can't climb out
Right,
of.
right. You can't
Yeah.
climb out over the black clouds, like all those things. But I think that we do have to experience that because it's just part of the human condition, right? Grief will be there, rage will be there. I am angry about a lot of things. And, being in your late 40s and perimenopausal means you're pissed off a lot of the time, right? Um,
We don't have to come up with things. It will come to us. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I'm not looking for things to be mad about, but I'm mad about a lot. But I'm also happy about a lot. And that's sort of the life is just complex, right? And that's what I try to express to my students when I'm trying to get my son to understand. I don't know who it's easier to explain it to right now.
Mhm.
Um, but that we do have to sit with those things. And honestly, I don't think you can feel real happiness and real joy if you don't know what the contrast is. And I mean, that's not original to me, of course, but I think that idea, like you have to go through grief, you have to go through those things, not just because life's going to throw them at you, but because those contrasts allow you to understand what you're feeling, right?
Yeah. I really like the literature as a tool to help with this.
Mhm.
I remember a few years back, now that I'm a full-time administrator, I don't get to teach. Boo. But when I was a few years back, um, I was teaching a course, it was like Intro to American Lit, and I like conceptualized the whole course about how, people aren't reading fiction anymore, right?
Mhm.
They're not the same levels, and this is one of the reasons why some studies have shown that there's decreases in empathy because the way we process when we read is different than when we watch a film. The structure of all that, we feel things much more deeply when we read them.
Yeah.
And I like that idea, what you were saying about how by reading we understand the human condition and people who aren't like us, and how critical that is
Mhm.
for our understanding of not just, the world, but our own happiness. Um, how has reading helped you, do you think?
Well, it's interesting you talk about empathy because that's my new project is thinking about teaching empathy.
Mm,
On my own, right? In terms of my own reading, in terms of my own experience of teaching things, I think that number one, reading and reading a lot and widely prepared me to manage my feelings about death.
mm,
Number one thing. And it's not just like, yeah, I am actually super goth about a lot of things and all that. Um, I'm like the least goth looking goth. That's what I told my
mm.
students. They said, yes, you are. But I genuinely think it prepared me to deal with emotions about death, accepting that death comes for all of us. This is just part of life, right? Because we've lost that since we don't do the things the Victorians did, right? With actually caring for the body within the home. We just kind of hand it off. And I watched some of my relatives when my grandparents passed away, really not coping with it really well, right? Um, and I've watched other people, right? And like I can roll with it, right? I'm sad, but I can roll with it. And I don't get stuck, right? I don't life goes on and I continue on. So I think that's the number one thing it did for me. I also think that reading has helped me understand how different I am from other people, but also how alike we are, right? We can always talk about
Mhm.
that. There are, I don't think there are a whole lot of universals, but I think there are some universals within emotion, right? Like lots of other things are not universal, but there are some fundamental, and I think the research is bearing that out, right? Like that there are some basic emotions that we all seem to have. And reading, I'm more interested in reading about people not like me. I don't get the desire to read about people I don't want to read about me. I'm me. I'm bored. That's boring. Um, actually just read a short story collection called Night of the Living Rez by Morgan
Hmm.
Talty. And it is a short story collection. He's Native American author from Maine. And it's all about living on a reservation in Maine. And it's
They have
really,
them?
yeah, they do.
I
Apparently it's fairly
didn't
small. It's fairly small. Um, but it was really good and I loved it. And it's so, it's about this, you know, stories, they're interwoven stories, and it's just such a different experience on so many levels, but it was so good. It was just really good, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who likes short stories. But just that idea of reading from a different experience. The book I'm reading right now is interviews with women artists, and
know.
like currently the chapter I'm on is she's interviewing artists from Romania. And like this is such a different experience, all these things. I would so much rather read that because I want to know
Mhm.
what other people go through. And I think that builds that empathy both for me, but also helps me think about how to encourage empathy. We have such a shortage of it right now.
Oh,
And
1000%. Yeah. And
and
I was,
the fact that there are people now saying empathy is a bad thing, like, no, dude, like
yeah, what is
Kevin
that?
Arndt
That's
was right. Like
crazy.
that's the fundamental part of what keeps society going is empathy and we got to support each other, mutual aid, all that. And that's what I'm so focused on, right? And I think for myself that built a lot of who I am politically, personally, as an instructor in the classroom, all those things. Like that's pretty central to who I am, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I think about this quite a bit because when we started teaching versus now,
Hmm.
our students do, oh, like the majority, do not have a practice of reading. It's
No,
just not part of
right.
the United States culture anymore. It's
Yep.
not.
No.
And that doesn't mean that they don't have exposure to books.
Yep.
And there's some that, they'll do more audiobooks, things like that. But the experience, which is good, right? Don't
Right,
get me
right, right.
wrong. Audiobooks, yay. But the experience of sitting with a book, even in digital form, whatever form, is different. And it teaches something different than if you're like reading and also driving and doing a million other things, right? Where you're sitting internally reading. And I mean, I do think that's one of the reasons why there's such a dearth. We can't train those same muscles if in other practices,
Right.
right? And this brings up, I think quite a bit about this, right? I'm really glad that people are doing audiobooks, but how do you feel about them? Because I haven't talked to a lot of people about, well, how do you feel about especially what it does in terms of empathy or in terms of like what happens as a reader?
I have no problem with people who want to use audiobooks. I don't use them personally. I if I'm going to listen to stuff, honestly, it's podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but the
Same,
podcasts I listen to are not literature based typically. Like there are a couple like
same.
short poetry ones where I'm not listening for the poetry. I'm listening for the person to sort of give me their thoughts on the poetry. I'm way more interested in that. But everything I listen to is pretty much like history, um, cooking, obviously, always cooking, things like that. And so that becomes more about entertainment and just like I love podcast history podcasts because I just want to learn as much stuff as possible. And that's kind of a fun way to do it. Like I'm gonna walk the dog, I'm gonna listen to this history podcast about whatever weird random thing. I'm like, and I love sort of let's learn about the Meiji Temple or the Meiji Shrine, excuse me, or let's learn about I'm listening to a podcast episode today on ballpoint pens. Great, I love it. I've always loved that kind of stuff.
I
But
love
like,
this. I love shit like that. Love it.
of
Tell me all
course, of
about the
course.
damn pen. All
That's
about it.
why that's why I teach English, right? Because I
Yeah.
can take all that into the classroom if I need to. Or I just get my students will tell you I get excited about everything, so whatever. Um, But I think that for me, I mean, certainly I know for me, reading a physical book, I don't like reading digital books. It's fine, other people do. I want a physical book.
It's
Um,
better. It's better. It's just not convenient when you have to fly like I
right,
do,
no,
but it's
absolutely.
better.
Oh no, I know. I mean, I like the tactile experience, but I think there's something about sitting with a book that requires some degree of solitude, even if there are other people around, but some degree of focus that, at least for me, I can't get any other way. And I do think that that's something that is being lost. I don't like talking about like current students. I try not to compare them too much to previous students just because they're good at a whole bunch of other stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Every
Like I
students,
don't ever
every
want to get
generation
into
of
that.
students has
Mhm.
their own,
Absolutely.
wonderful, amazing things, and it just
Right.
switches. That's what happens.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
like lamenting what change
Right.
is silly.
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, we were messed up because of Sesame Street, right? Like that was the complaint about us. We had short attention spans because of Sesame Street. I remember the 90s and how they complained about us, whatever.
Every
Um,
generation, it's the same. But
right.
there is something, and I'm not sure if it has to do with time, like this idea that we have to move everything quickly, right? And goes by, you know, everything has to be very speedy, and reading's a slowing down
It's
process.
slowing down and it's not productive use of time, right? We're so obsessed with productivity and always hustling. I hate hustle culture. I hate even though I do it, right? And I hate that everything has to be a side hustle instead of just doing it for fun, right? Like I like to do crafty things. I am horrible at it, but I'm having fun. Oh no, my stuff is ugly and I don't care. Like, and I love baking, but I cannot decorate a cake, right? I love baking cakes. I make delicious cakes, but I cannot ice. And I couldn't
Same,
ice
same.
them.
See, this is one of the other reasons why we're friends. I love bacon. It's gonna look terrible, but it will taste good.
That's the point, right? Like I'm not and I love taking photos. I love people's beautiful photos of food, all that, mostly because I want to eat it. Um, but this idea that we have to always be productive, always have a side hustle. There's always got to be purpose to it. And reading has a purpose, but I think a lot of the purpose is just to read, right? I think
Hmm.
that there is something in that reading that it allows us the solitude, it allows us the quiet, it allows us and forces us to slow down and think. And I think right now we live in a culture where it's not just reading, it's everything. Everybody's afraid to slow down and think, partly because you got to sit with your feelings, right? I think we're afraid of
Yeah,
our feelings.
yeah.
Um,
So many people are afraid to sit with their feelings.
yeah.
Like they're terrified of
Mhm.
what's inside them, like they're gonna discover, and I'm also the devil, right? No, it's just you have
Right,
feelings like
right.
everybody does.
Yeah, we have feelings and they're complicated and and none of us are perfect. We don't like that idea either. And we are contradictory, right?
Hmm.
Like, and I think that hypocrisy, like from public servants, is different from like, okay, I have some contradictory ideas about the world, right? Or things that seem contradictory, and I may have to make some logical leaps in my belief system or whatever. Like everybody does, and we don't like that. And that's what I'm seeing from my students is when they hit cognitive dissonance, they're really uncomfortable. And not in a way
Hmm.
that produces a new way of thinking, but more in a way that's I'm going to run away.
Run away from it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And even among my best, sort of most confident thinkers, I can see when they're brushing up against something real uncomfortable that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them eventually do. I remember I remember a breakdown in college when I realized like at a moment where I'm like, life is just about sex and death, and that's it. Literally everything is just about those things. And I'm like 19 years old and I'm freaking out about this. And now I'm like, yeah, dude, that's all it is. And that's okay.
Yeah, then it's okay. I
Freedom.
think that's
It's
the
about being
thing.
able to have children and
Yeah.
making sure your children have a future and children are about sex. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Like I freaked
100%. And those feelings, people being scared of things, which I get, right? It's sort of
right.
like I had such a terrible fear of flying for so long.
I know.
And so just avoid, don't look at it, don't look at it. Instead, the only way, the only way out is through. You got to
Yeah.
look at your stupid mess and just be like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, life is about sex and death, the end. And once you're okay with it,
Yeah.
you're just like, meh.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what kind of lives my students have outside of the classroom, really, right? Like the only times I know is if they come and sit in and they do, they come and sit in my office and give me the lowdown. But like I remember as a student, and I hope my students are experiencing this, like having late nights of talking about deep ideas or freaking out, right? Like watching things that disturb you or reading things that disturb you. And I can tell you, I have these flashes of memories of, the first time I read something, it was all too much in one weekend. Like I read The Sandman, which is kind of verboten
Mhm.
now. I get it. I'm very mad at him. But it was such a great comic when I was in college. I read that
Mhm.
and was freaked out by certain things about that. We watched Last Temptation of Christ in the same weekend, and I just am like, I can't do
You
this.
lost it.
I lost it. I remember these moments and they were so pivotal. But I also have, like, to kind of get back to the other point, right? I also have memories, especially in college, but beyond, like, of the moment of sort of transcendent experience, right? Like, um,
Or
hearing,
where all of a sudden the world goes from this to like,
yeah. And so,
whoa.
like, I, a lot of times for me, it was with music, experiencing music, right? And I play music, but I haven't, but it wasn't those things. It was, going to the Magic Flute for the first time, Queen of the
Mhm.
Night, of course, like actually hearing that live, I was vibrating as we left the opera house. I'm serious, like I was vibrating, like I'm like, I can't handle this. Um, and there are a couple points in Handel's Messiah when I hear it live that I'm just blown away with, like He Shall Purify just knocks me out every time, even
Mhm.
hearing a
Yeah, it
recording
gets
of it.
those chills through your body.
Right. And so that's part of all of this. I hope my students are experiencing it. I hope my son gets to experience it someday, right? Because that's all that, like, feel all of the feelings, which means sort of also feeling like ecstatic joy, feeling overwhelmed. Because I think if we're narrowing down and we're talking about empathy and not sitting with our feelings, I don't think we're sitting with our happiness either, right? We're sitting
Oh,
with
100%.
like a
Snap, snap.
level of satisfaction that isn't true, like that awe that over, right? um you know Overlooking the canyon, right? Like thinking about, I
Yes.
got to think about
That
the,
me at concerts. That's why I go because I can't help it. There's a moment I'm like, overwhelm, all the emotions. Oh,
right.
it's so
Well, and I think
great.
that's why, like, nature, and I love being in the natural world too, like just for a hike. I'm not going to camp. Do not ask me to camp. That's
Oh
not going to
no, no, I can't.
happen.
I
Don't
can't
camp.
either.
I know. I know. um
I can
my mom
glamp.
started
Give me a
camping
nice
again.
cabin.
My mom started camping again once she got remarried, and I'm like, what is wrong with
What?
you guys? Well, she quit. She
Wow.
and my dad had quit when I was like 2. So that was, a hot minute
That's
ago.
yeah. That wasn't yesterday.
No, no. But she and her husband, I mean, it's a little more glamping, but it's still, I'm like, that is no, no, no,
If
no.
it's outdoors and there's not a bathroom that's attached to the place,
Yeah,
it's
no,
camping to me.
she loves doing it. I'm like, what? Okay. But I do think, being out in nature for a lot of people, for me too, right, is there are those
Mhm.
moments, there's that enjoyment. Um,
Yes,
but
all of a
that's,
sudden you walk and there's a clearing and the canopy of the trees and
yes,
your heart goes,
absolutely.
oh.
Absolutely. And I think that we don't always recognize that I don't think people recognize that they're missing that when they don't read, when they don't go out into these spaces, when they don't go outside of their own community. Um, the other place I feel transcendence like that is food. Food makes me very happy. Sharing food with
Mm.
other people. But see, I love food so much. Like ridiculously. And I've realized recently that within my department, 90% of our conversations are about food.
Good. If there's something that's connecting you.
Oh yeah, and then I talk with other people, but it's like these great meals we had, or hey, here's where you can find this spice you can't find at Kroger, or this is what I'm growing in my garden. Like, do you need tomatoes?
Mm.
Those kinds of things. And and I have a colleague who he at least used to. He was the kind of person who you'd be like, try this weird candy. He's like, okay. He was one of
Oh,
those people who,
I
like,
love the weird candy people. I love
yeah,
it.
he's a weird candy person. I mean, I asked him once, I'm like, were you one of those kids who, like, if somebody gave you $1, you'd eat a bug? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Okay, okay. Um, but like, I think that's another place, right? It's always for me about expanding what you know, expanding your experiences, learning from other people. And that's part of what I think makes the world a happier place, is getting to know other people and getting to know other
Mhm.
cultures. And like, and that means food, music, literature. We always go back to that. And just ways of being. And I love that personally. And
I like
I
that.
want more
I like
people to
that
love
too.
it.
Like diversifying
Yeah,
our patterns, I think. Because if we're so
absolutely.
used to right now, this time we sit down and we just watch the movie and I process
Right.
this way. If we're at a different experience, say, a concert, a museum, outdoors, reading,
Mhm.
then all those emotions that we're not necessarily used to experiencing, we can experience them. And that does make for a richer life, getting out of the same patterns into those other ones that help us experience the range of emotions fully.
Well, and that's, when I think about teaching and when I think about my son's future life, like I want to help my students, help my son have a rich life that's full of lots and lots of stuff, full of happiness, but also, we can talk about like figuring out who they are, really and
Hmm.
truly who they are, and getting to go live that life that they want to live, which means experiencing more stuff and not being afraid of the world. Now, that's not accessible, and I am not against assessment, but we are in such a culture of assessment right now where everything has to be data driven. Like, I can't tell you if I'm effective at that. Like, I'm just excited to introduce students to new weird things. Like, hey, listen to this Velvet Underground
Oh, I
album.
love that. I
I
love
do
that.
that in I've got an honors
Yeah.
class. Or, learn about all the scientists of the Manhattan Project. Or here's, let's take a look at these. I taught world literature this summer. Let's look at these creation stories from all over the world, right? Like,
And I think I thought of you the other day because my eldest is going to college, which is
I,
blah, what? But
I
then I
know.
was, yeah, I know, isn't that crazy? I was, I'm going to see Ani DeFranco in like a
Yay!
couple, I know, she's coming to, there's this great treehouse brewery. It's outdoors and
Oh my
there's
gosh,
food
this is great.
trucks everywhere. It's like the best venue because you can get up close or away from people and it's amazing. Anyway, and then I thought, I have not introduced this person to Ani Frago. You cannot go to college
No.
and not be experiencing some Ani Frago. So my whole playlist of all like, here's everything you need to know. Get started now. You know? And so I thought of you because every time I think of Ani DeFranco, I immediately you're back there in my
I
head.
love Ani. I realize I still have an Ani DeFranco t-shirt from the 90s, and I realize like I'm that person with a 30-year-old concert t-shirt that
Good
I
though. Those are
still
the
wear.
best. You
I
probably
still
sell
wear
that if need be. If you're
it.
really hard up one day.
No, I
Just
will never
vintage.
be hard up enough for that. I still have, it's not quite 30 years old. I think it's from 1997, but still, it's pretty cool.
But I'm gonna go back to this idea that because it really stuck with me that and this resonated that students today, so many of them are anything that is cognitive dissonance, they're just like, oh, that's really I can't. And I think that it made me think that maybe our culture right now is like that too. So the idea that you ban a book or something has always been too afraid to sit with something that's dissonant, right? And that's really what it's about. There's something that makes you feel uncomfortable and you're afraid to sit with that. And I think we have more of that right now for many reasons. One, that people don't read as much and all of that. But I think we have more and more where it's just too hard for people to sit with something that's uncomfortable when that's what they need to sit with, right? That is the solution, is understanding why we're uncomfortable with something and figuring it out. What do you think that we can do to help other than make everybody read, which isn't possible? So what can we do to help?
Um, well, I think, in terms of reading and in terms of like book bans and things like that, I actually think one of the most important things we can do is support our local libraries.
Great.
I think that as a faculty member, I think it's really important that I support my public library, not just my campus
Mhm.
library. Um,
100%.
I am raising a library kid. We go to the library regularly. Um, I love the library. I check out books from the library and and when we in February, right? It's Black History Month, and there's all the anti-DEI stuff going on. And my librarians, because they are librarians and they are awesome, they still had up, they had up all their displays for Black History Month. And I told them, I said, thank you for still doing that. I
Yeah.
live in a conservative community, relatively conservative. I mean, it's not as conservative as the conservatives here think. Um, Democrats make up about a third of the population around here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not as conservative as I think. And a lot of the Democrats are really far left. Um, we also have Franciscan nuns, and we all know that they are social justice people. So
Yes, they are.
it's a really interesting community. But I think number one is supporting public libraries. I think that's really, really important. And whether that means, writing to your Congress people or your state Congress people, because in Ohio, libraries got a lot of funding stripped. It's like writing to them, doing that kind of thing. I think that's the number one thing. I think on an individual level, it is reading to your kids, right? If you have
Mhm.
kids. Um, but I also think, things like little free libraries can help, all of that. And it's just continuing to put books and reading and learning front and center for a lot of people. And then, I don't know, maybe something even as simple as being seen reading or talking about what we're reading
Yeah.
to other people. I will go and announce, like, go read this book, go read that book to everybody I know. And I have a colleague, and actually, her husband as well. She's a professor at Heidelberg. He's a lawyer in town. And every time I have a conversation with either one, they recommend a book. And I love it. I
Mhm.
complimented both of them. And in fact, I told her husband, I'm like, I can't get out of a conversation with your wife without being told what book to read. So I am always talking about, hey, I read, I've referenced multiple books here. Like I said, right now, the book I'm reading is by Stephanie Alexander Grease. Um, uh it's all about art, why does it matter, right? It's all that, like, and it just came out. It's amazing.
Mhm.
But talk about books that are good, right? Always
Yeah.
recommending books, always suggesting books. And I think it's really a matter of making it present. And we can't force people to read. I want people to read. But then also supporting businesses that bring something different, right? I was at the park on Friday. We took the kid to the car show at the park because he does love cars. He thinks I should drive a Lamborghini. I don't know where he got
Oh,
the
of
idea.
course. Why aren't you silly?
He also wants us to have baguettes. So like my bougie child, it's
Well,
Peppa
you
Pig.
should honestly best
Oh
meal
no, I love
baguettes and
baguettes, but he's
cheese.
like, can we have a baguette? I'm like, do you know what one is? No. I'm like, it was on Peppa. I'm like, oh great.
Oh my God.
It was. So he goes around, bonjour, baguettes. Like, okay. Anyway, but on Friday we go to the park for 4th of July, just in the morning to go see that. And we always go to the food trucks because I love food trucks. Food trucks are great. And there was a food truck that said Filipino street food. I'm like, that one, that's the one we're going to, right? I'd never had it, tried it, it was great. Um, and so supporting businesses like that, right? Every time we have, the taco truck, the tamale truck really comes to the farmer's market, like get tamales.
Ooh, tamales.
I know, and I
Hmm.
haven't had his tamales yet because there's always a line, but somebody told me this is the real deal, like they're
That
good.
there's a reason. There's a line.
Yes, exactly. So next time he's at the farmer's market, I'm gonna get some tamales. Um, but I think supporting local businesses, doing all of those things to help show that you support it, right? That we continue to bring those things in and that
No,
it's
I love that because I
I
people
mean,
people forget that they create their own culture. So what we go
exactly.
to and support is what lives. And this idea,
Absolutely.
so many people have like, oh, I don't like it here. And like they're
Yeah,
absolved of the creation of culture around them.
right.
And where we go, what restaurants we go to, what places we go, we are creating
Yes,
culture by what we
absolutely.
do.
Well, and my wonderful hippie parents definitely instilled in me that idea of bloom where you're planted, right? Like my dad was a pastor when I was growing up, and that was how I was raised. Like you go where you're sent, right? Because when you are a minister, particularly he was a Lutheran minister, you go where you're sent. You don't get to pick, right? And
Mhm.
I think as college
Like an
professors,
academic.
exactly. Oh no, and everybody's like, you moved around a lot. Were you military? Like military kids, pastors' kids, academics, right? Um, you go where you go because that's where the job is, that's where the need is, and then you build on it, right? So it is like support your local library, support local business, support your local artists, right? Um,
100%.
we have some really great artists around here, and I have been meeting more of our writers around here. We've got this great little bookshop. Um, owned and run by Heidelberg alum. Um, it's very weird. Like at this point, I'm now have taught a lot of people who are running
Oh,
things
I
in
know. Isn't that
town.
weird when I go back to Russellville and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're that old.
I know. I know. I'm like, no, like I've taught half the staff at this bookstore.
I
What?
know it's like you're grown,
But
but
they're
doing
great.
grown
So,
person things.
right. And so like and I don't buy books a lot because I'm mostly using the library, but like when I buy a book, I go there, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I was thinking that's so brilliant. Like the way to solve it is to continue to create book culture and the
absolutely.
importance of the public libraries and what they serve and how they serve the community, or even like little bookstores in a
Yeah.
town are often the center of town. It's like that in
Yes.
Russellville. There's a little
Yeah.
bookstore. I adore that place. Little coffee shop attached. And
Mhm.
then the library and all that they're serving, not just for the kids, but for everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
Same as here in Fitchburg. Same.
Our library is doing a lot of they do a lot of adult programming too. So I'm going to go to my first
That sounds
arts.
dirty. Does
Sorry, that did sound dirty. It's mostly it's mostly just little old ladies. So that made it
Oh,
worse.
oh, you made it worse.
I'm
Adult
sorry.
programming for little old ladies.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
no.
Anyway, no, they do like once a month they do adult crafting, right?
Oh, that's
And so
cute.
they're making I'm going to go to the next one. I'm really excited because we're going to
Oh,
make
good. You can make something really ugly. That's
yes, exactly. We're
wonderful.
making glitter.
Oh,
book bricks. Like, you know how people paint their bricks to be like books, and it's glittery, and I'm very excited. Because
oh,
Ohio,
I didn't know people do that. People do that? I need to see
yeah.
your glitter brick, okay?
Oh, I will send you pictures, don't worry. Because one of the cool things I'm really happy about with Ohio's library programming this summer is the theme is color your world, right? And so it's about art,
Nice.
but it gets a lot of stuff in there. That can mean a lot of things. And so like our library has you know, books by diverse authors. They've got a display of books by diverse authors. They've got a lot of rainbows around. It's great.
Yeah, good.
It's
Yeah,
very, I love
exactly.
librarians because they're so subversive. But you know, back
I
to
do. I do. I love them too.
my mom was a children's librarian for a long time, so like I'm well versed in that. But like our local bookstore, they have all kinds of programming as well. So they actually do a silent reading club, right? Everybody just gets
Oh,
together for an hour once a week.
nice.
Yeah, and they do a writers group, which I go to sometimes, where you just sit and write for an hour and then you talk for half an hour about what you worked on. Right. And
I
so
love
absolutely,
that. I love
you have
that because
people
I was,
doing that and I love
Kayla
it.
Black in the first episode was talking about, the
Yeah.
endemic of loneliness, but how hard it is to be with people. And I like the idea. Let's go be together, but we don't have to
Right.
talk. We're just going to do
Right.
this thing.
And they're doing a book club, you know, and I love that they're doing this. It's not my cup of tea, but they're clearly getting people to they do like a romance novel book club. Like, not my cup of tea, right? I don't, romance is, I'm not interested in romance. Like, even as I don't like romantic comedy, I want to watch an action movie instead. Um,
Yeah, see, that's where we're not alike. I'm like, stop with the death. Can they kiss?
But I know. I just want things to, I just want explosions. But they do this like, and so that it's a different crowd than you might get at like the library does
Mhm.
their monthly book club too, right? And that's, you know, a little more highbrow than some of the things to read. But like, I don't care. I want people just to get
Yeah, if
together
it
and read a
brings
book with
them
me.
joy, I'm not going to pee on their
Exactly.
Christmas.
Don't yuck anybody's yum, right?
Don't
Um,
yuck their yum. If it's a good,
absolutely.
except if the yum is hurting people, that's not a yum.
That's not a
I'm gonna
yum.
yuck
That
on
is
it.
not a yum. But like I love that we have both this really, and we do, it's pretty active. The library always has lots of people in it. Their events are really well attended. Some of the events are too many. We had an exotic animal show at the library, and I have never seen that many people in the library, and it was so crowded, but my kid got to touch an alligator, so it was great. Um,
Yeah, you're exactly right. I like this. I think that, and I was thinking too, when I'm on the train going into town, because I live out further out from Boston, because this is expensive here.
I know.
Oh my God, it's awful. Anyway, um, so going like when I see other people reading, it's just like, oh, I'll just take out my book, just as a little like
Yeah,
reminder. That's
yeah,
actually what you want to
absolutely.
do right now. That'd be better. And
Absolutely.
so this creating this culture, I really like this idea.
Yeah, and I'm trying, one of the things I've been trying to do and be better about, because I, like everybody, get stuck on my phone and I need to stop scrolling. And it's not just doom, I mean, it's doom scrolling, but it's other things like stop doing this. I try to take a book with me most of the time. Like I carry a big enough bag if it's a book. Um,
Yeah. I found these ones when I was at Kripalu, these little like micro books. I'm
mhm.
not going to find it in my air. Oh, I did. And it's like this big.
Oh my gosh, that's
Isn't
amazing.
that perfect? I should throw it in my
That is
purse. This is
perfect.
Pima Chodron. It's just like little
Yeah,
snippets. I don't know, but
that's
it's
cool.
something that I have on me at all times then,
Yeah,
and that's what matters to me.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's like we have parts of this community that I'm in are very much steeped in reading culture, and plenty of parts are not, right? And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's just supporting those parts that are there. And what I like, one of the things I really like about this community, right, is that building community, is that during COVID, when a lot of the play, when I mean, because Ohio shut everything down completely for a while, businesses started working together. Our local businesses started working together, and they've kept those cooperations going since the reopened. So, like the local coffee shop I go to has an assortment of the candies that are made by the shop two doors down, right? Like, so she
Oh,
makes her own
nice.
chocolates. And so they sell those. And their coffee is sold at the bookstore. And the local restaurant, the Wings place in town, has a cooperative agreement with like this fancy little bar in town, right? This fancy cocktail bar. It's a really nice whiskey bar.
Yeah, nice.
Right. And so that kind of coordination has kept been ongoing. And I will give a lot of credit to the folks who are running our economic development board. Um, Heidelberg alums, by the way. Uh, we always got to get that in there. Very proud. Not my students, though, before my time. But like, they have really been pushing this sort of rebuilding the downtown, and it is full of people who want to make that connection. And I think that connection, that community is so important for all of us. And I think it makes it a healthier community. I think it makes a happier community.
Mhm.
And it's a safer community because of it, right? There's a once a
Oh
month
yeah.
Thursday event. We went to one, they do it's Fête de Musique, which is like just artists. It's a French concept of just having artists, musical artists everywhere. And I
Oh, I
took
love
my
that.
son. It was so much fun. I took my son, and it was on Juneteenth. So I took my son to that. And then there was one stand for where the kids got to make like little beaded bracelets with a couple of my
Mhm.
colleagues from Heidelberg, um, doing little kid-friendly snippets about what Juneteenth is and just this opportunity to kind of learn to do these things. And my kid loved the beads. And it was very proud.
Well, and you're exactly right. What matters is that local community and what they're doing. So Russellville's phenomenal about that.
Mhm.
Who's leading that local community matters a lot, what they'll
Yes.
allow, all of that. Um, so like Russellville, I just learned when I was back that they're planting fruit trees in all the city parks
It's
for
great.
people. I know, isn't that a great idea? Like they could just take it as the fruit comes in, you just go to the park with your
That's
kid.
great.
Take it, all right? And
That's
that
great.
doesn't, why not do that instead of just
Yeah.
another tree that looks nice but doesn't do a whole lot?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and stuff like that to build so you feel
Mhm.
like you're supported in that place. That place
Yes.
appreciates you.
Right.
That to the daily experience of life matters so much.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that reminds me, actually, Ross Gay talks about this in, I don't remember which book. I read a bunch of his stuff, but he's also talked about, I've heard him on podcasts talking about it as well, like that in his town, yeah, and that they have a community garden like that it is like
Hmm.
fruit trees, things. And if you need food, go get it. Right. And
Yes.
work it. And he's a gardener anyway. And so like very serious gardener. I'm like, I have some herbs on my porch.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's my level. Oh, my 4 tomatoes did great this year.
Like tomatoes are going gangbusters, thank you. But like that idea of you build your community. And I think that's one of the things about, excuse me,
Oh, the dog tail. I see it.
I don't know what she's
Beautiful.
doing. Um, I think that's one of the things about college towns in particular, but it doesn't have to be a college town, right? But it
Oh, yeah.
helps because you've imported people. Like we are, Heidelberg is the kind of place where most everybody's a transplant. The college
Mhm.
across the river from us, not so much, right? Like it's a lot more people who are local. Um, we're two very different colleges, but I think it's always healthy for a community to have people come in from the outside.
Yeah, come in that are visiting and like
Yeah.
bring their perspective.
Bring their
We're
perspective,
getting
but also learn about the local perspective, right? I have lived in places very different from where I grew up. I mean, I grew up in a bunch of places, but really, I'm a city dweller, right? And I've lived in towns of 3,000 people. I learned so much from my
oh yeah.
students, from the community, not all of which I agree with, but I learned a lot about the perspective. Um, and that was important for me too, right? Like I think that's one of the things that can get lost for some faculty members when they come into a new town. um we also need to learn, right?
100%. Like you don't, anytime when you come to a place with
Oh yeah.
superiority, like where I'm from is better than here, then you're automatically being a dick, right?
Nope. Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's our job to learn from everybody is a
Yeah,
human like we are experiencing life.
absolutely.
There's things to learn from, there's things we can contribute. And also to make sure that we understand that we are responsible for where
Mhm.
we live too. That we
Yep.
don't come in and it should be ready made. If there's stuff we
No,
don't
no.
like, it's our job to help with that.
You wouldn't expect a home that you buy to be already furnished to your tastes. You do it
No, no,
yourself,
that's
right?
right.
You build it yourself. And so I think that's all part of building that community and building a healthier community and a happier community. So
Well, we're getting we've
fine.
yacked for so long. It's already time for the final question,
Okay.
which is, what is one of your favorite songs?
Oh my gosh, okay. You've known me long enough. You probably remember that I'm really terrible at picking favorites. So,
Yes, but I could already tell you. I could pick some for you, but I'd rather hear it from you.
okay. So really, like, depending on the day of the week, it can be anything by David Bowie. We know that.
Yes, I know that.
I know. Other days of the week, it might be by Prince. Right now, I'm gonna dodge the question. Right now, I'm good at this one, because I hate picking single songs. Right now, my favorite song that is a current song that's giving me nostalgia for college. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, does that make
Yeah, that's
sense?
good.
Like,
Yes, I'm with it.
okay, Pink Pony Club is absolutely my favorite song for that. Like every time I hear it, I remember who I was when I was 22. right? And I
Profound.
remember the feelings that that song is about. And I love it for
Yeah.
that reason.
I love that answer. It's the
Thank you.
best answer because it's the hardest question on earth. You're like, you want
Absolutely.
one?
Yep.
I'm mad at you for making me pick it. I'm
Well, and
mad at you.
I am terrible at picking favorites anyway. Like my son is like, what's your favorite at this? What's your favorite dinosaur? What's your favorite this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, do I have one? Kinda. Everybody asks me what's my favorite Shakespeare play. I don't know. Like, what day of the week is
They
it?
all have shades of interesting and bad, right? That's kind of the thing.
Lovely. So, we're gonna go with that for today, though. So,
I love it. Emily, it's always my best time talking with you. We can talk about anything, and I love it. But I think we solved some things. Got some action plans for,
absolutely.
for
Let
everyone
me
now.
write the memo.
We'll write the memo. We'll send it an email, CC everybody on Earth, BCC some other folks, and then things will get done and all be fixed. We'll say
Yeah.
thank you.
Support your artists, support your library.
Yep, support your library. All right. I love you to death.
Love you too.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody,
You
for
bet.
listening. Till next time. Bye.